Remember when common sense was common? When standing up for what is right was the right thing to do? Welcome to The Right Side. Common sense conversations about Hawaii's political landscape and how it affects you, your ohana, and your community. Join us for the next hour as we cut through the political noise and look at Hawaii from the right side, where public officials and community leaders discuss the policies that affect our future, strategies that move the needle, and highlight leaders that are stepping up to make a difference. Get ready for The Right Side, a common sense conversation.
All right, welcome everybody to Wednesday. It's been a long day for me, Jennifer. I'm like, full day at council. What people don't know is that my day starts like at 4 a.m. I do a radio show right across there. Look, see, that's producer Leah. She's
Good afternoon.
Yeah, Leah's gonna weigh me in on like when, if there's a caller and all that good stuff. So yeah, very a long day for me, but I'm excited. I'm excited about our interview.
I'm excited too, and you seem very coherent for a man who's been talking all day. So.
Well, I appreciate that. The number here is 808-913-6450. That's 808-913-6450. If you want to join in and hang out with us and have a conversation with us, I was so moved because, I do a thing, with my office called Get to Know Your City. And our whole time now for almost 4.5 years, we've tried to visit every department so that the people in our beautiful city understands what everyone does. And, man, people only realize your department does a lot, considering it's so small.
Yeah, I would say tiny but mighty.
Tiny but mighty. So, when there's a crisis on Oahu, like a tsunami coming, a hurricane looks like it might hit our island, or a wildfire that impact public safety, who do we turn to? Well, today we have one of the top experts in the state on emergency management, and she can answer those questions, again, at 808-913-6450. Jennifer Walter is the Deputy Director of Honolulu Department of Emergency Management, a position she's held since 2019. She's also the acting director until the new director takes over May 1st. She has 25 years experience in the emergency management field in private, nonprofit, government sectors. Also, we know we are in good hands. We are in good hands. Believe me, I've seen a department. Yeah, it's small but mighty. And these people do a lot. Jennifer, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. I appreciate being here to talk about this today.
Yeah, and it is cool that, we got to talk off air, get to know each other a little bit more. I mean, we've been working with each other now for almost 5 years.
Yeah, exactly. It's usually such a formal setting, so this is nice. Yes.
So this is kind of cool. We're outside and we get to put on a different hat, and most importantly, we want to help educate you guys listening. Because when I did the whole department, and I came by with my department to understand what you guys do, I was like, it's so important that people understand, like, being prepared, being ready just in case. So, I wanted to share some information with our listeners so that they can, be educated, and we can all be educated together. So, what does your department do, and what do you want the public to know about the department that they might not already know, Jennifer?
Yeah, a lot of times we get questions like, no, people don't understand it's alphabet soup, right? There's FEMA and HAIMA,
yes,
and we go by DEM. So we're the City Emergency Management Agency, and HAIMA does the same thing we do at the state level, and then FEMA does it at the federal level. What we really do is day to day, when there's a house fire, an accident, the first responders have it. They have their systems and procedures, and they know what they're doing. Mm-hmm. But when something happens that it's more than what they usually have to deal with, now that fire, we need a shelter for people to go to, or we need assistance from another agency outside the city, someone's got to coordinate that. And that's what our job is. So we bring all the city agencies that have resources together, nonprofit groups, private sector, and we listen to the people that are responding to it and try to get them what they need and make sure the most important resources are going to the most important needs at the time. And to do that, to back it up, that doesn't just happen magically. You don't just all show up in a room and everybody knows what's going on. You've got to plan together and kind of understand who can do what. And especially with the nonprofit side, you don't want to be making that call the first time and saying, hey, can you help us out? And who is this? We don't want that relationship. So a lot of it is more internal to the city and the partners is kind of making those connections, knowing who can do what, so that when we get in that room, we know who to go to, and we don't have to say, is it you? Is it
right.
you?
We need steadiness in a time of chaos, because that's what usually happens.
Yeah.
Right? We see the chaos, and now with social media, we see a lot more than what we normally maybe grew up seeing.
Yeah.
So we need that backbone, and that's what you guys are.
And it's so everything happens so much faster than it is today, and there's so much can be misinformation out there quickly. But the other thing that we try to do is to educate the public on what they can do, because we can't do everything in an emergency. I always say to our people, we could be the best agency in the world, but that doesn't mean 5 minutes after something happens we can be there with a bottle of water and a blanket for everybody. It's really about helping people make decisions that they can keep their family safe. And then when it gets to a point where it's too big, too many resources, then to try to figure out what's needed to get the community back on track. But we want to empower people to be a participant in their own rescue.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so that they know where to go and what to do. It's kind of that simple. And so we're trying to focus on more tools to do that in an emergency. We just launched our new H&L alert system this month so that we can give more robust messages in an emergency.
Good. Explain to people what that is, because they maybe know, but again, the key to everything is like really educating yourself, because government cannot do everything.
Yeah.
And like you said, it's not as easy as handing a bottle of water to someone.
Yeah.
There's so much involved. So explain to us, emergency medical,
the H&L alert.
Yes.
Sure. So, a lot of question I get, I'll start with people say, well, why do we need this? We already have the system that goes on the TV and the thing where your phone makes that big noise if it's an urgent warning. Why would I sign up for this service? And the deal with the emergency alert system we have, that's something that is provided through FEMA, and that's intended when, no kidding, things are really bad.
Right.
There is an urgent life-saving message we've got to get to. A tsunami is coming. Evacuate now. It's not intended for the less severe things like, hey, maybe something's on the horizon. And so H&L Alert is something you can sign up for that we can give you earlier notifications. But the second thing that I think is more important, that I actually didn't realize this until we had the 911 outage and we had to send out a message over the wireless emergency alert with some alternate numbers. I got it on my phone, and I picked up my phone. I went to look at it, and I realized the second I looked away, that message had disappeared. And it's not like a text message where it's in your text messages list and you can find it. And that had important phone numbers for alternate things. And if you were scrolled across the TV and you didn't write it down in time, that's a real limitation. And so we can tell you to pay attention and go to other resources. But what H&L Alert does, if you sign up, we can send you a message, whether it's text alert, email alert. If you download the app, you can get it as a push alert. But it will have that same message with a link to more detailed information that's in your messages. So if you missed what was scrolling across the TV,
it's locked in.
Yeah. And we can also include links. I mean, we can't put a whole link on a TV you're going to remember, be standing there ready with a piece of paper. But we can do things if we talk about an evacuation area. Here's a link to where it is. Those other alerts we send too, they're limited. So for us to send an alert to you on your phone, it has to be 365 characters, including spaces, periods. So if you need to tell someone to evacuate a certain area with street names, that is really hard to do a good job. So what H&L Alert does, if you sign up, we can do longer messages to give people more detailed instructions.
And it's so important when in time of need, or, you really need to get the comfort you need.
Yep.
And sometimes you just need a simple response. Okay, because we are winding down on our first break, but how can people right now download the H&L Alert?
They can go to hnlalert.gov. There is that's the sign up page. There's a link to the app. Everything that they need is right there. hnlalert.gov.
Okay, no excuses. You get it, producer Leah? hnlalert.com.
.gov.
Sorry. Okay, so hnlalert.gov, everyone. And if you want to talk to Jennifer Walter, you can call us here at 808-913-6450. That's 808-913-6450. We talking, not turkey. That's how you know I'm tired.
You're hungry.
Yes. Emergency medical services. It's Augie. This is the right side, a common sense conversation.
Welcome back to The Right Side with Hawaii public officials and community leaders. Let's get back to common sense conversations.
All right, it's Augie. And this is The Right Side, a common sense conversation. We're talking emergency management. And we have Jennifer Walker here. And we want you guys to log on to hnlalert.gov. That's hnlalert.gov. You can use this. And again, the residents can get information from everything, right?
Yeah, I mean, we have HPD uses it pretty regularly to send out road closure notifications. Board of Water Supply can send it, and they target it to this area that people entered their address in. There's ocean safety notices. You can pick what side of the island you want beach alerts about. So there's a whole bunch of departments that are on it, in addition to emergency and weather information.
That is awesome. So, there's a joint traffic management center across the street from your office that my staff and I got to visit. Do you have a presence there, or how do you coordinate with the center, when there's an emergency?
So, the Joint Traffic Management Center is where the 911 dispatch for all the first responder agencies are. And so at Department of Emergency Management, we always have someone available 24/7, but we're not in our office 24/7. So one way we coordinate is that Honolulu Police Dispatch acts as we call the Oahu warning point. Mm-hmm. So after hours, if there's something big that happens, just in case we didn't get notified by our phones getting texted, they call us. They take that initial call and they wake us up to start the city's response to something. So that's one way we coordinate. So we also get notified from fire the same way. We have a duty officer system. So something starts to look big. We rely on those first responder agencies to get us the heads up so that we can start getting the other city agencies ready. We also, that's the location right now of our EOC went down for our Emergency Operations Center. Sorry, we all speak in jargon in this business.
So you want to explain that because...
Yeah. So when we need to bring everyone together to coordinate really fast, with all the technology, when things are moving fast, face-to-face is best. That's just, you can have the conversation, there's not confusion. And so the Emergency Operations Center, or EOC, is essentially a room where you do that coordination. So all the agencies you need send a representative who can talk, phone home to wherever their headquarters are. So
that's the place, I was telling the guys that run the area, I was like, can I get a badge? Because that's where I want to go in case of a big emergency, because that place is like Fort Knox.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's pretty much the only time you want to be there. Regularly, it's a basement with no windows. But yes, in an emergency, it's a good place to be.
Yeah, so. It's a secured area. But that's where, again, we need the people that's calm, that's ready to take action in case there is a huge emergency here on our island, and you guys know there's a lot involved, and we saw that with Lahaina, there's a lot of things. So, it's important that we have this structure and that you guys are part of that structure in case something big happens, right? Yeah.
I mean, there's so much in an emergency that you're not going to be able to anticipate or plan for perfectly. We try to all the time. That's kind of our job, like chicken, how I always feel like I'm...
Are you guys always running scenarios?
Yeah, negative Nelly, hey, what else bad could happen? But even then, sometimes it's the unthinkable. And I really feel that the heart of being well prepared and a good response is to have the relationship. Because if you can get the right people in the room together talking quickly and they're solution people, you can handle that. But if you don't have the right people and you're trying to solve a problem, quickly without that, it's going to take way longer. And that's what I feel like the core of it is, those relationships, the understanding of what we're trying to do, and keeping that really in place.
You know how people respond when there's challenges. You know, some of us take things the wrong way, or some of us panic, and there's a lot of confusion, a lot of chaos. Mm-hmm. So it's important that we get the right people in the room to help us figure out and solve some problems.
Yeah, one of the things I hear from the community a lot is kind of, well, how does this all work? How, if something happens, do I let people know? And what we try to do is like bring in partners that have big networks.
Okay.
So like if we have one group that comes in, sometimes they're part of a larger healthcare association. And so from that one person, because we have a pretty small emergency operations center, what they're doing is they're taking information from all their partners and letting us know. So we'll have partners in the room, like the food bank is a big partner, because every day they work with hundreds of smaller nonprofits that help the community. So we've been doing a lot of planning with them, for example, about how would we do emergency feeding? Because by going through that one agency, we know no one agency can do it already, but they already have all those relationships. So a lot of what we're looking for is ways, especially outside of government, who are those connectors that it might just be one person in the EOC, but they're representing a whole industry or segment of the community behind them. And so that's a lot of what we try to do is plug in to get those groups to help us understand what's going on.
No, it's super important. It's, you're talking food, right? And because we hear horror stories on like how we really if there's something really big happen, you hear things like, we really only have 2 weeks. I'm like, whoa, and you think about if I'm responding that same way, like in the everyday person, it's a scary thought to think, man, something big happened. And that's why we need that steadiness and that quietness and the people that understands, like, hey, this is how we got to do things in case something really big happened.
Yeah. But I'll scare you even more.
Okay.
Less than 2 weeks.
Okay, less than 2 weeks.
So,
producer Leah is like, she's shaking her head.
She's going to Costco.
Yeah.
Getting her supplies.
well, look, we all know it's important to prepare, and we'll talk preparedness, because I think that's the reason why I wanted to have you guys on, because, man, after the things that I saw, being in government now for almost 5 years, we don't have the solution to every single problem, but that's why we have different agencies that have the key people to take care. So less than 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you think about it, if a hurricane's coming too, right?
Okay.
They usually close the port down a few days ahead of time.
Right.
And so by the time the storm hits, we've probably stopped importing things for a couple of days. And the estimates are maybe about 7 to 10 days of food supply on island, but a lot of that's out in the hands of kind of the people by that point, because if you weren't prepared, you probably did a run on one of the stores. And so if we have a hurricane, by the time that storm hits, if you haven't done it today and gotten it ready, it's really concerning. And that's why we talk about preparedness so much.
And that's the reason why I wanted to have you on, because, we hear it all the time, April is Tsunami Awareness Month, but we hear about hurricane, being prepared for hurricane, being prepared for floods, being prepared for fire. We hear that, but how many of us really do it until like it's coming and we see what's happening in Costco? People buying water, people, trying to get generators. Like, man, you got to do it now. Now. And that's why I wanted to have you on, because, April is. And she's not here because of Tsunami Awareness Month, but she's here because we want you guys to really prepare. But we've seen what devastation can happen, in Hawaii and around the world from a tsunami. What should the public know about being prepared for a tsunami before a tsunami hits, since it is Tsunami Awareness Month?
Yeah. So I am surprised a lot of times by the number of people that don't know whether or not they're in a tsunami evacuation zone. So of all the things that you can do, we give a lot of, build a kit for this, but a simple thing to do is just figure out if where you live or work is in the tsunami evacuation zone. And we have a really simple website, honolulu.gov/tsunami evac.
You hear that?
honolulu.gov/tsunami evac.
Okay.
And it'll pull up a map. You can enter your address. So the second thing I want people to know is that there's 2 zones. So there's what we call the standard tsunami evacuation zone. For almost any tsunami, that is the zone we're going to evacuate. On that map that I mentioned, it's shaded in red.
Okay.
And so for almost any tsunami, that's the primary concern. That's the biggest risk area. After that big Japan earthquake a few years ago, some of the scientists that work with emergency management agencies said, well, what's the worst case for Hawaii? Because that was Japan's worst case. And they did a model and they found a worst case that if there is an earthquake of a certain magnitude, 9.0 or above in the Aleutian Islands, that could generate a bigger wave that would require a bigger evacuation area. And so they call that the extreme tsunami. So when you go to that map at honolulu.gov/tsunami evac, you'll also see an area shaded yellow, and that's the extreme zone. And I want people to understand the difference because it's a less likely scenario we'll have to do the yellow. It's important to know.
Right.
But the real concerning one is that red zone, because that could be a local earthquake off the Big Island that causes us to have to evacuate or something more distant. But know if you're in it and then think about how you'll get out. We hear a lot, just day to day, traffic.
Right.
Now we suddenly have to move a whole bunch of people. Can you walk out?
No, look, when they
How
had
many people could fit in your car? You really thinking through this.
You remember when we had the tsunami warning because of what we saw in Japan? And I just remember the sirens going off, and in Ever Beach, had people putting gas. And even though we knew we had ahead of time, I'm like, go get people with their phones trying to get likes. You know what I mean? Like, we should already be preparing. You look at, know the signs, because there's signs in your neighborhood, tsunami evacuation area.
So that's the boundary of the more extreme zone. So
Okay.
if you pass that sign, it's telling you you're in an area, you got to pay attention if a tsunami happens and know what zone. But unlike hurricane, where we have a few days to tell you, get ready.
Right.
Tsunami for Oahu, it can be anywhere from 30 minutes to 16 hours. Notice.
Right. So 30 minutes or 16 hours. Okay. So
between the time we know that there's a tsunami and the wave hits.
So you can easily go online right now.
Right now, honolulu.gov/tsunami evac.
Okay. All right, we'll have all the information up there once we get this posted online because we want you guys to be safe. We're talking to Jennifer Walker. It's the right side, a common sense conversation.
Welcome back to The Right Side with Hawaii public officials and community leaders. Let's get back to common sense conversation.
All right, we're talking Tsunami Awareness Month. I have Jennifer Walker, and we have the Emergency Medical Management team here. Well, the Deputy Director here. She knows it all, and we're talking. It is Tsunami Awareness Month. So, what's the difference between a tsunami warning and tsunami?
Oh, they have all sorts of them. They have watch, advisory. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Break it down for us because we're going to get people, again, to jump online and go get prepared and find out, where the evacuation zone is in your area. But you want to try to explain that? What's the difference between a tsunami watch and a tsunami warning?
Yes, I will. So tsunami warning is the most, that's the level where they believe that a large destructive tsunami wave is headed our way, and the instructions are going to be to evacuate. So like I said, most of the time it's going to be out of the standard tsunami zone. Otherwise, if it were an extreme tsunami, we would tell you to evacuate out of both zones. But so the tsunami warning means they have a fairly good level of confidence that a destructive wave is going to arrive. Sometimes they're still not sure. They have these buoys out in the ocean that wait for the wave to go over so they can see how high if it was generated. And so we work with the Pacific Tsunami Warning Center, and if it's 3 hours out to the time the wave would arrive and they're still not quite sure, they'll put us in a warning just because they know if we wait any less than that, people aren't going to get out. So tsunami warning means leave the evacuation zone if you're in there. A tsunami watch means that there's been an earthquake or something that may have created a tsunami. They're not sure yet. They're evaluating the situation.
Okay.
They're trying to get more information. That is your heads up call. I say the watch is, watch out, something may be happening.
Right.
That is the time to make sure you have some supplies ready to go in a go bag that if you didn't listen and didn't look up your zone today, that'd be a really good time to do it. Being ready, because if that watch, now they say, okay, we've done the analysis, we're in a warning, you're going to be told to go.
Yeah, you don't have time for okay, I'm going to get my go bag.
Yeah.
And we're going to talk about a go bag, but I guess I want people to really understand, if Jennifer is saying within 30 minutes or 16 hours, guys, in the morning when Chaz and I are doing morning radio and we're talking traffic all morning, think about a scenario. You get 30 minutes. Think about how long it takes to just get out of, in my case, Fort Weaver, Ever Beach. So being prepared is really understanding man, there's going to be a lot of cars on the freeway. You don't want to get stuck.
Yeah.
You want to make sure that your gas is always filled, and you want to make sure that you're prepared. And being prepared is understanding where it ends.
Yeah.
So okay, I got to drive to maybe Waipahu High School. I'm not saying that's where, but if you kind of know, then you go, okay, it'll take me about 10 minutes. I'm just going to be prepared. I know what I got to do. And getting that go bag.
Yep. And I mean, one of the things I'll say about evacuation is a lot of people ask us, well, where do we go? Where do we go? And the answer I give is that really it's the best thing you could do is pick where that point is for you today, whether it's a family or friends or something else. Because imagine if we tried to pick a bunch of parks around the island.
Right.
Now everyone's focused on getting into that tiny parking lot. All the cars stack up because everyone thinks they have to get right there. And there's not enough time for us to set up shelters or things like that. So really the instruction is just to get out of the zone. And the way that you do a fire drill, it's kind of calming when you have to evacuate a building in a fire drill because you've done it before. You know the way, someone's told you. For tsunami, think about how you would do that. They did a study a couple years ago out of the standard tsunami zone. Almost everyone on island, they mapped it at a really slow walking pace, can walk out within about 15 minutes of the standard tsunami zone. And if you're in a building 10 stories or higher, you can also evacuate up to the 4th floor or higher. So think about that. And if you can see kind of where a good line is, that maybe you practice with your family walking out, you put on your backpacks, go for a stroll. Because then what happens, it's not the first time that there's less of that panic. Or practice driving there, see how long it takes, know a couple of routes to go. There's simple things you can do to kind of lower the level of anxiety when it
because
happens.
it's gonna come whether you like it or not. You're gonna maybe panic a little bit or have anxiety, so you might as well prepare. I see producer Leah just 2 thumbs up. She's all excited. Yes, I'm gonna get my go bag. I'm gonna practice walking. If I live in an apartment, I'm gonna see how high I can go. That's what you want to do.
If everyone would do that, retire, right?
Okay, let's talk about a go bag.
Yes, go bag.
Explain to people what a go bag is.
Okay. So we advise everybody to have a disaster supply kit with 14 days of stuff that you need to ensure you survive. So water, food, medical stuff. But if something happens short notice, whether it's a wildfire or tsunami evacuation, you may not be able to carry that 14-day supply to your car and evacuate with it, or you may, be relying on public transportation. So what we say is to take some of the most critical items out of that kit and keep it in something you can carry. So copies of important documents, maybe a little bit of water that can, last you a couple days, or water bottles you could fill up, maybe some snack foods, a change of clothes, so that if you have to go quick, you can carry it. Maybe it's a rolling bag that you can pull. It's not hard to take with you, and you have something to get you started. So it's for those things where your full kit you can't grab with you, but it's a smaller part of that with the most essential, maybe a couple days medication, things like that are just always packed, ready to go. So I keep one at work. I have one under my desk that I have. And so if we were ever told to leave the building or
ready,
I couldn't get home, I I can have a change of clothes.
You know what? I know get people listening right now going, I got to do that. But you never ever do it.
Yeah.
Think about how easy that is, Producer Leah. Think about how easy that is. Tonight you go, okay, I'm going to get this much change of clothes. I'm going to, whatever medications I need, I'm going to buy double.
Act like you're going on a weekend trip.
Yes.
Like, what are the most important things? Another thing I do a lot of times too, you know, when you're tired of wearing something or it's kind of getting worn out, I usually, before I take it to somewhere to donate, I'll see, hey, do I need this in my disaster kit? Because maybe, like, I don't want to put my good clothes in there, but something like, you know, doesn't have a hole in it, it's good enough.
Yeah.
I'll keep some of the things I was going to otherwise donate or throw out in there, because those are my emergency clothes. And so won't look good, but I'll have a fresh set of clothes on that day. You know, there's a lot of things that you can buy fairly cheap that last a long time. They have, like, emergency bars that are high calories that you can find online. But even if it's just some snack bars, stuff you regularly go through that every once in a while you rotate out and put new stuff in. It doesn't have to be super hard, but think about what you would want. A little bit of cash, maybe some copies of important documents, an extra charger for your phone. That kind of stuff really.
Yeah, no, think about it. How already comforting that is if you just did it. If this weekend you told yourself, I am going to create me a go bag.
Yep.
You know, for a couple of days, I'm just going to have it.
Yeah.
Just in case. And you know, I don't care who you are, when you walk in your house and you see it, you go, I'm ready.
Yeah.
I'm prepared. Okay, what about pets? Because a lot of us have pets.
Yes.
Yeah?
I have pets too. She has a bigger kit than me.
She has a bigger kit than you?
Yeah, no.
Okay.
She needs to be comfortable. So, yeah, really your pets, you want to make sure that you've thought of them. I think one of the most important things is a way to carry them. If we had to open an emergency shelter, pets are going to be welcome, but they need to be in a carrier preferably. We work with the Humane Society or leashed, but you want them to be in something where they feel safe,
right.
That you can quickly grab and put them in there, put a towel over it if you can. But some food for them as well, some water. They have really neat, like little collapsible water bowls. That's what I keep in my pet's kit. That she can have any kind of like comfort items, you know, an old toy that maybe you can put in there. But yeah, pets are part of our families, and people don't want to leave without them, and I understand why. And so I found a little backpack that has little cats on it that looks like mine, and so that's her go kit. She has a little go bag too.
Yeah, my Maine Coon, Ollie, will probably carry me out.
Yeah.
Okay, so, you know, May is right around the corner. We get 3 minutes, but it's also Wildfire Prevention Month. And we've seen the terrible devastation and loss of life that a wildfire can cause. So what should people do to get educated and prepared? If you can do this in 3 minutes, you're amazing. So
my key message is, when you get a heads up something has happened, pay attention and get ready. Don't wait until you're told to evacuate. The H&L alert system I talked about earlier is one of the ways we would give early notice. So hnlalert.gov is one tool. But if you feel unsafe, leave. And it's the same stuff. I mean, that's the thing. You know, people get worried about one hazard or another. A lot of things I'll say are the same. Make sure you get accurate, credible information, that you have supplies to go quickly, that you've thought through a couple ways that you might leave and how you might get there, and really thinking through others around you. If you live next door to someone who doesn't drive, like, how do we help each other out in this situation, and having those conversations with your neighbors even. Those are the key things. And if warning hasn't come and you feel unsafe, go.
Yeah.
Go. And I really want people to be empowered, because that's what we find a lot after these disasters, is that people who took things into their own hands and made choices for themselves. There's an instinct I read about where people hunt for information and they want to know that it's right. And they waste time waiting for exact right answer, which might, not come with all the tools we have, or it might be conflicting in the chaos. That's part of the reason H&L Alert is there, because it's an official system with official information. But if that goes down, not available, whatever could happen, anything can happen, despite all the preparedness. Make decisions for yourself.
Trust your instincts.
Trust your instincts. When you feel safe, take action, and think through beforehand what that is, how you would get there, what you would take. Practice it once. Say the best thing you could do to have a readiness drill in your family is go camping for a week.
There you go. Leah, Chaz, we all got to go camping.
Go camping.
We got to practice. We got to be prepared.
After that first night, you'll see what you forgot and what you're not comfortable with and what you wish you had. I actually learned a lot. I updated my kid after that, so it was a good experience.
There you go. Practice by going camping. All right, we come back. We're going to wrap things up. We want you guys to go to HNL.
HNLalert.gov. Sign up.
HNLalert.gov. Go get them. It's the right side of Common Sense Conversation.
Welcome back to The Right Side with Hawaii public officials and community leaders. Let's get back to Common Sense Conversations.
Are we packed? Are we ready to go, Producer Leah? I mean, we've been talking about tsunamis, wildfires, emergency, and we got so much information, so much good information, and we want to remind you guys to go on the website, download, and get prepared, right?
Yeah, HNLalert.gov. That's the new mass notification system we have to kind of give you hazard weather information, other city services. Has a link to our website, which has a lot of other information as well on just the different hazards, what they are, what to do, maps of different hazard areas. So that's a great place to start. If you're on your disaster preparedness journey, step one.
We all should be on our disaster preparedness journey.
If you're just beginning it, it's a never-ending journey, but HNLalert.gov is step one.
And you guys got a couple of minutes if you do have a question. 808-913-6450. Jennifer is an expert at this. At one time, you worked for the American Red Cross, first at their headquarters in Washington, D.C., and then at the Hawaii State Chapter as a response and preparedness manager. You oversaw the training of 600 people and responded to some 90 disasters a year. What did you train your volunteers to prepare for here on Oahu?
So I think that's where my experience with the Red Cross put the heart in what I do for me. So a lot of what we train for is both small and big disasters. So I don't know if people realize this, but in the middle of the night when I was there, if someone's house burned down, we would get a call from the fire department. It would be answered by a volunteer who volunteered to answer that call. And then she would call some other volunteers who were asleep, who would get out of bed and go to someone's house that burned down that they'd never met before and figure out how to help them out with Red Cross services. And the fact that there were people that were willing to do that, and then we would have big disasters on the mainland, and people would take leave from their job and go for 3 weeks to sleep on a gym floor and help serve meals all day. I just saw how much power people can have in making a difference, and how important those organizations are. And like you said, government can't do everything. It's about working with the people that are force multipliers, and so a lot of it was training them how to run shelters, how to deal with people in, stressful situations, all those kinds of things, how to do feeding or even logistics. There were all sorts of volunteer opportunities, and that was really rewarding. And I came from the mainland all those years ago, and it was a great way to know the state. Talk about preparedness. I remember, I didn't know, I just show up here and they sent me to Molokai to do a talk on disaster preparedness and some training. And I said, what are you going to do if, the barge doesn't come? And the guy goes, I'm going to go outside and shoot my cow. And I thought, wow, resilience looks really different in different places around here. And there's some people who really know how to take care of themselves and aren't counting on help. And then there's some place like big urban areas here where we're
not ready.
Lost some of that, So it was a great way to learn the state, and
I love Molokai.
I know it's just and I really appreciate that introduction. And
if it's anybody that's going to be prepared, places like Molokai that's already. When you talk about sustainability,
because they understand, they understand what it looks like if a shipment doesn't arrive, and day to day, that they really have to sustain themselves, that there's limits to what's there. And I think we all need to kind of get a little of that mindset what happens when some of the things we count on aren't working quite right. And not so much, well, what is government going to do? What are you going to do about it? But kind of like back to those Red Cross volunteers, what can I do? What could I learn? So there's all levels. There's the people that might just sign up today for HNL Alert at hnlalert.gov. They're the people that I hope will build the Go Kit.
Right.
Then there's our platinum model where they build the full 14 days. But if you really want to be, kind of the elite readiness person, find a way to tap in when something happens. I'm
almost so excited about like getting people prepared that I might do something online. Like if you show me your Go Pack, I'll give you like a pair of tickets to come see my show.
Yeah.
Because I think it's so important that we just have that on us.
And I think it's great. Like sometimes people have great ideas about how to do their go bag or things you didn't think about. Like, I have one of my go bags is a bathing suit. Someone told me they went somewhere, there are no private showers and they just needed to take a shower and it was all out in the open. And I thought, so every time I have a bathing suit in my, just little thing, or a deck of cards when your kids can't play on their tablets all the time.
Simplest thing, right?
Simple things. How do we keep people? So I think sharing information online, getting people to kind of put their tips or take pictures of what they got is a great way to get them.
All right, I think I got something to do to get people encouraged. I want to encourage everyone to just be prepared, because not only when that time comes, and God knows, man, we've been so blessed, but we've seen devastation. A couple of years ago, I was in Kentucky when that tornado took down like a whole town, and we went down there to drop off blankets, and I was like, man, thank God we don't have anything like this in Hawaii. But we've been saying that we've been lucky for a long time, but we got to be prepared.
And one of my past jobs, one of our planners, I asked him to look into a bunch of after action reports. I was after Maria in Puerto Rico and everything. And he said, he came to me and this really resonated. He goes, every report I read, there's a quote in there of someone saying, I never thought it could be this bad.
There you go.
And we don't want to be that community that didn't prepare because we never thought it would be that bad. I don't want to see us quoted in an after action report one day. So I hope people listen. It doesn't have to be impossible. It doesn't have to be hard. Bit by bit, something's better than nothing. But it's important for all of us to do.
Well, we appreciate you coming on. Again, you guys, thank you so much for listening. Next week, we talk Honolulu Zoo. Leah, we talk the zoo next week. Thank you, Jennifer.
Thank
really
you so
appreciate
much.
you.
Take care.